Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is our Introduction to Make Code for CSEd Week 2024. If you want to follow along with me, or if you want to write this down so that you can pull this up later to look at the stuff that we went over, the link for this is aka.ms/HOC 2024 deck. And I can also put that in the chat later, or Sarah can put it in the chat. And here we are at the intro slide. Hi, my name is Kiki Protzman, for those of you who don't know me yet. If I do look familiar to you, that could be for several reasons. I've been with Make Code now for 4 years. I don't even believe it, but I have. So you might have seen me in some workshops or at conferences or in some videos. And if you think you know me from even further back than that, it might be from code.org. I wrote their computer science fundamentals curriculum and was in a lot of videos with them. I also did a lot for their hours of code for the first year all the way through like 2018. So if you just can't quite place where you know me from, it might be that. And then I do have a couple of books that I just wanted to put up there and mention. You might have read one or both of these. I'm very proud of them both, but I have to say that the Let's All Teach Computer Science book is probably my favorite thing that I've ever written. And I have a few kids' books on Amazon as well. And then Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out. I'm Sarah Rekirk. I'm a dev on the MakeCode team, and I've just been on here for a couple of years now. Still feel like I'm finding my footing, learning new stuff every day. But I get to work with some really amazing people. And so I'll just be, like Kiki mentioned, I'll be monitoring the chat and answering any questions you might have.
Thank you. And I'm just answering a question in the chat. It was a personal one. So, all right. What is CSEd Week? Presumably, if you're here, you probably already have some sort of idea and you're trying to figure out what you want to do for CSEd Week, but you might have just thought this was an interesting option for a workshop. So CSEd Week, you might know it as Hour of Code. That was some branding that was kind of layered on top of it after 2013, but it happens the second week of December each year, and it was started to inspire kids. I say inspire kids and students to take interest in computer science, but really it was started to interest everybody. So the intention was to get anybody who thought computer science was too hard to just try it so that maybe they didn't think it was so hard after all. It's a week-long celebration that's meant to just kind of demystify computer science. A lot of us as educators didn't take computer science when we were in school, at least not in K-12. So it makes it sometimes a little intimidating to get started. And so many people have done so much work to try and simplify it that it's a good opportunity to show educators that this is attainable. And it's something that is not too challenging if you don't want it to be. And of course, if you do want it to be, you can make it very, very challenging. What is Make Code? So I'd like to see through reactions. How many of you have heard of Make Code before? Have you heard of Make Code before today? We have some applause and thumbs up. Great. Are any of you using Make Code? You can use the chat and let me know if you're using Make Code. What Make Code products have you tried? Or what's your favorite Make Code product? We are a free open source learn to code platform. We originally started for physical computing devices, and then we added Minecraft, but we now also have Arcade. And so we're constantly expanding. And we start with kind of the drag and drop interface blocks, but it allows you to switch back and forth between blocks and JavaScript or Python. And other places will kind of let you see the block view and toggle to see what it would look like in code. But this actually lets you edit that code and then still be able to toggle back to blocks. So that makes us pretty special. We've got people who've tried Arcade, Minecraft, and want to try Microbit. That's great. A little within ME, I'm guessing that's Minecraft Education. Make code with microbit. Okay, so we have a really great spattering here. And maybe some people who aren't very familiar with Make Code Arcade. So this will be fun. All right, this is us, Make Code, and you can see more at makecode.com. Our main three products, as people in the chat have noted, are Arcade, which is kind of a retro style arcade environment where you can make your own arcade games with not a lot of work. You can make your first arcade game like a clicker game with 2 or 3 blocks, and it's got a very low floor, but also a really high ceiling. So it's fun, and that one's completely free. And next is Microbit. Some of you are definitely familiar with us through Microbit. We have a really fun and engaging block-based interface to program the little Microbit devices. And usually I have one right here. Oh, and I do. The little Microbit devices here. And these are pretty inexpensive. They got a little more expensive after COVID, but they're still under $20 a piece for the entire kit that comes with it. And you can get classroom kits, I think, for even less per unit. And the coding environment for that, it's the same really as Arcade. It's block-based environment. You can switch back and forth between blocks and text. And we have a simulator on the side. So for classrooms that don't have complete sets of microbits, or for schools that share microbits between classrooms, you can use the simulator to see what it will look like on your microbit once you have the opportunity to load it. So that's super helpful. And again, the program is absolutely free. It's just the microbits that cost money. And then there's Minecraft Education or Minecraft EDU. And we create the block-based coding environment for Minecraft. So if you've done the hour of codes with Minecraft, you're actually using Make Code within Minecraft EDU. And you will notice, again, very similar. You have the choice with blocks or Python. You can switch back and forth, not within the hour of code environments, but when you're playing around in Minecraft EDU. And yeah, basically tons of fun. That's the only one that isn't free per se, unless you have a Microsoft license at your school. If you have a Microsoft license above a certain level, it's already included. And otherwise, I think it's $5 per seat. And today we're going to be looking specifically at Arcade, which is actually my favorite. I consider it my baby, although I was not around for its birthing. So I guess we'll call it my adopted baby. I love it very, very much. And I do a lot of the curriculum, the skill maps, that type of thing for this product. And it is, well, you know what? I think I'm just going to hop in and show you. So, specifically this time, we're going to be talking about our hour of code activities. So, our activities that we have specifically for CSEd week. And this snapshot, we just got everything up and polished this week. You can go to aka.ms/HOC-all, and that will bring you to our hour of code activities. And for the first time, we have a junior activity, a beginner activity, and an intermediate activity, all new for this year. We've only started dabbling in the junior activities very recently, so we only have a handful of them, but this one is one. I don't know if anybody's seen the show Lila and the Loop yet on PBS Kids, but it's adorable. And it's about this, they describe her as a sassy 7-year-old girl who has a pet named Stu. And Stu he's kind of modeled after an AI. So he interacts with her, she interacts with him, she'll ask him to do things, and he will misunderstand, and trouble will ensue. It's adorable. So this is a game based off of that. And the beginner activity is for Inside Out 2. And it is the joy of bubble popping. So it's your classic bubble popping game starring characters from Inside Out 2. And finally, we have a collaboration with Code Ninjas. Some of you might have Code Ninjas in your cities. They love working with schools. They do some great computer science education there. And they have developed a activity based on Scott Kelly's mission to Hubble. And that is more of an intermediate activity. So we have all three levels. I'd say that the Lila and Stu snack chase is targeted towards that kind of kindergarten to 2 age range. Third graders can definitely do it, but they might go through it a little bit quickly, and you might have to go to another junior tutorial after that. Inside Out 2 is targeted at somebody who's a little bit stronger of a reader, but the blocks are all simplified so that you can do a lot in a very little amount of time. So, fourth grade and up, high schoolers have fun with this too, but mostly because of the bubble pop game. And then the Mission Hubble Reach to the Stars, that one is also appropriate for fifth and up, but more likely if students have had some prior coding experience, not necessarily just coding experience in arcade, but just some experience kind of in general. And then for this next bit, I'm going to switch out of my slide deck and I'm going to show you the actual page because I want to show you what some of these look like. We will look a little bit at these, but for this webinar, I also want to show you some of our previous activities because we want to give you as much variety as possible and allow you to make a decision that feels like it fits into whatever class you're teaching. We will be doing another webinar December 3rd. So if you go to our webinar page, and that should be linked in the slide deck as well, then you can sign up for that one. And that's instant, just add water, CSEd week prep. So we will specifically look at those top 3. We will give you everything you need, show you step by step how to run them in your classroom, make sure you have all your resources. That will be what we do for the December 3rd workshop. That will be an in-depth. But this one, I want to cover basically all of the options so that you know what we've got. And plus, towards the end, I'm going to show you a couple of, we'll just call it icing on the cake or sprinkles and a cherry on top or something like that. We'll show you a couple of things that aren't specifically Hour of Code related, but they make doing the Hour of Code and any arcade programming just a little more fun. All right, so first I want to show you what the difference between our junior and beginner style activities are. So I'm going to click into Lila and Stu's Snack Chase real quick, and that will pop open in a new window. And you'll see that we have a video at the beginning of this. 90% of the time, kids click right past it. They never watch the video, which is kind of anticipated. But also, if you find they're having trouble later, you can suggest that they go back to the video and watch the video. This is a cute video. The one that's in here right now is a placeholder that gives you great information. But in a week or two, we will be getting a video with the actual voice actors from the cartoon. So we'll have Lila, possibly Lila and Stu, or Lila and Stu and Evan in the video. And that will be really exciting for kids, especially if they watch the show. This is different. If you've used arcade at all so far, the junior is different for a couple of reasons. The first is we have all the blocks just listed right in the open. We don't have categories that people have to click through. Also, the blocks are as pictorial as we can get them without having a misunderstanding of what the blocks are. So we've got, this is essentially an array that we simplified quite a bit. We have an add sprite block with a bunch of other stuff built in, but we simplified it down for low level readers. Set scene, a set background block, and just try to get rid of as many letters as possible. Still have some reading in there, but mostly kids can pattern match to pull blocks around. The second thing we have, and we have these in a few of our other tutorials, but most of them are in clues. So they're collapsed and you have to click them open to see the animated GIFs here. But these are just right out in the open. The first step actually shows you the block you need just to help the students connect the idea of these instructions are telling me that I want to take this block and put it in the workspace. Something else that you'll notice with our hour of code activities that doesn't happen a lot in our other types of tutorials is that there's kind of code already preloaded. So you'll see all I did was add a pickle. And yet when I go to the game, um, when I go to the game, I have the ability to add extra characters. I have a message that pops up. When I clear the message, that's when my pickles start coming out. I'm getting points for the pickles. All this stuff had to be programmed. But when we're working with young ones, kindergarten, first, second grade, it's too much to expect that they can program all of this themselves within an hour. So we kind of put some stuff in there already, and they're more finishing the game than building it from the very beginning. So they add the pickle, they already have a game they can play. If that's as far as they get, then they still can play and have a great time and move their characters around and catch pickles. But if they move on to the next step, they will learn how to add a background. For those of you who are really knowledgeable about coding, you probably understand that generally it really matters what order you put stuff in. We made sure for this junior level that that's not the case, that you could put things basically anywhere and it will still work. In fact, the magic and I guess a downfall of this activity is that you could put every block that's in the toolbox in here and you would have a great game that functions. Is that realistic? Maybe not. Is it a good precursor to what you will end up learning for a kindergartner, first grader, second grader? Yes. So that's this one. It's very painless. It's a lot of fun. You come up with a game that kids are thrilled to use, and it's multiplayer, which means kids can either play two kids on one computer, which we have the information for here, or they can actually share and play multiplayer online, which is something that we'll talk about a little bit later. Next, I'm going to move on to our normal style of tutorial. And for this, I'm going to click on our 2022 hour of code. But the only thing that is old and outdated about this is that date, 2022. That's it. Everything else is really primo hour of code opportunity. This is one of our favorite hours of code I ever created. And this is our Code Carnival. The really neat thing about this option is it also has a couple different levels. You'll see we have a 1 chili pepper, a 2 chili pepper, and a 3 chili pepper, even though none of these are junior. So none of these are made for necessarily the low readers. But this one is video guided. So it has a video that students can follow if they aren't comfortable readers or if they just don't enjoy reading instructions while they're building. This also has an amazing packet of materials to go with it. So we have down here, we have the teacher materials. It's got a packet with slides. It's got everything. So it's really easy to pick up and teach in the classroom. Plus, who hasn't played whack-a-mole? Even if you haven't played it, you know what it is. It's very intuitive how to play. Burst in balloons, you might have seen that. Actually, you might have seen both of those on our main page. We moved these over there after Hour of Code in 2022. The burst in balloons, it's a mini game. It's like a Mario Party mini game where you're trying to see who can burst their balloon first. They're both really fun to play and really fun to build. But I'm going to use this one, Burst in Balloons, as a example of kind of what our normal skill map / tutorial looks like. And you'll hear me use those terms, skill map and tutorial. A tutorial is usually a one-off simple thing that you're building and then you're done and you have a very simple game. A skill map is a bunch of tutorials linked together that build off of one another. And that way you can make much bigger, more entertaining games. So even though there's 4 tutorials here, Students in 5th grade and up can usually complete this in about an hour. But I'll show you kind of what this looks like. This one also has a video at the beginning just showing you kind of the mechanics of dragging and dropping your blocks and getting started in case you have never done that before. But you'll notice that now, instead of having a picture of a block in the instructions, we now have color highlighted blocks to kind of help you understand the block you need and what category you can find it in. Some people, either they might be colorblind or they might not do great pattern matching when it comes to color. There's a feature that you can click on this and it will automatically open the drawer that you need in order to get your block. So that really helps. So you can go through, you can follow the instructions, pick things up. This is what I was talking about, clues. So we have these little clues, and when you click on them, they expose more information. And then that way we're not giving students too much and making it less fun. We're letting them think for themselves. We're letting them try things and fail. But if they really need that extra help, they can click on the clue and get a little bit more information. So, and then you just click next and you go through and you follow the instructions and just start building. The goal of the skill maps is to make sure students have quick wins. So every step of the way, every tutorial, they have some win that makes it feel sort of complete at the end of that. So the quickest way to do that here was to build a clicker game where when you press the A button, you get points. You'll see you just get points every time you press the A button. Really quick win, and then you can move on to the next thing. And the next thing will be adding a balloon that gets bigger every time you press the button. And then you'll be adding your animated mouse, and it just kind of builds just like that. So that's what our normal level, our beginner level skill map and tutorial look like. They're very easy to teach. All the instructions you need are here. And the teacher resources also have examples. In fact, let me show you that real quick. I'm going to go back to the skill map. You'll see there's this learning outcomes page. We've been teaching with skill maps for 3 years, and I've never seen a student click this, but I also don't really see teachers click it, which is unfortunate. The learning outcomes page gives you all of the information that you can expect from these levels. And you got your animated GIF of what it should look like at the end of the level. And then you have your solution option. And when you click on the solution, you'll see at the end of the level, you've got to go in and click edit the code to see it. It'll show you what the code should look like from the students at the end of the level. That way it helps you debug a little bit. So there we go. That's what it would look like if I kept going. I'm going to show you real quick what an intermediate skill map looks like. And then I just want to kind of just give you a little peek into each of those activities. And then we will look at a couple of special extras. So this is the Code Ninjas Reach for the Stars. They make their own game. And you can see already that it takes a little more intermediate of a student to be able to navigate that intermediate page, to be able to follow multiple instructions to get where they need to go. There's a lot more words here, but there's also a lot more explanation, a lot more learning that happens because things are described. So we'll go in. You'll see there's lots of instructions. They need to figure out what they need to get, what they need to grab, where they need to put it. And then they have to actually do things like set depth. But for those students who feel like they have it, but they don't understand what's gone wrong, there's this light bulb. And the light bulb shows you what your code should look like at the end of the step. So that is very helpful in letting kids kind of self-debug and figure out what went wrong. You'll also see this game uses functions. It's definitely not a game that was meant for people who've never coded before. It's definitely for people who know what they're doing, who've done some block-based coding, or I guess even text-based coding. But you do make a little bit more of a advanced game by following this. So that's what the intermediate looks like. Now, I showed you Hour of Code 2022, which is our Code of Carnival, gave you a sneak peek into Lila and Stu's Snack Chase, which was just unveiled. We finally put it up on Monday. So as far as I know, no classrooms have played this yet. And we've been doing testing and that's it. So your classroom might be the first. The Reach for the Stars, that has been used quite a bit, but we just added it to our offerings. And then Inside Out 2, we've been using this tutorial since the Inside Out movie came out, but they were nice enough. We usually have to get rid of them in about 3 months. And they were nice enough to let us keep using this all the way through Hour of Code because it is a good cause and they wanted to support that. So I'll just show you real quick what this looks like. Like I mentioned, this is a bubble popping game. And this has a category called Bubble. And that category has blocks that are special to this game. So what we've done is we've taken things that would have been functions if people were going to build this game from the very beginning. And instead of trying to teach a kid how to build multiple functions in 1 hour, we took those functions and just packaged them into their own block. So you'll see those here. Stick the sprite to a location, that's for where the bubble lands, creating the board, loading a new bubble, this kind of thing. All of it very integral to the game, but also a little bit complicated to program yourself. So this one just has you go through and create your board. I'm not going to do all of any of these. I just kind of want to show you how, like, the level of difficulty they are and the type of thing you're going to create so that you could see if you think your students would have fun with any of them. All right, so we're gonna create the board and then we need to load a bubble. So we'll load a new bubble here and you'll see along the way that we created the board and now we've loaded a new bubble. And the bubble does not come ready to run. You have to add that code too. So then, we need to put our Inside Out character in first. So we're going to grab my sprite and put that in. We need to make sure the sprite's in the right place. So we'll do that. And students don't generally move this fast. And maybe if they're in high school, they will. But the first time they're looking through, they need to understand what the instructions are telling them to do. So in this case, spoiler alert, you're going to create a right button, you're going to duplicate it, and you're going to create a left button. So I'll just go through and do that real quick. But then you'll also need to be able to fire it when you press the space button. So we'll go in and or space bar, which is also the A button. So we'll go in, pull all those out. And again, that was all in the instructions. So students would be reading the instructions, or sometimes they get in a space where they can kind of see what they need to do, but they only look at the instructions to get help understanding which block will help them do that. And they don't read very thoroughly, which can cause issues, but it also can cause thinking. I love it when students kind of get in their own world and have to debug and have to think through how something works. And sometimes that's more beneficial than reading every word and following correctly every step of the way. So you'll see we added a right button, a left button, and on A button, and that allows us to go through and move this around and to shoot the bubble. But now the bubble slides all around and we don't get a new bubble. So they just have to go through and problem solve each step. And then they build on to each step and build their game. This is a really fun one. And if any of you have ever been addicted to Bubble Pop, you know what a good time it can be when this game is finished. I was definitely somebody who played a lot of Bubble Pop in my time. Just to give you an idea, these two here, Sparks Flying and Sparks Flying Junior, you create the exact same game, but they are differentiated. So Sparks Flying Junior is more like what you saw with the Lila in the Loop. It's got no categories. It's got low text blocks, and it allows you to build a game very quickly for low readers. Sparks Flying is the same game, but the student has to build each step of it with more or less normal arcade blocks. So if you have different grades you're teaching, you can use the differentiated materials and they both come out with the same game. Or if you just have different levels in your classroom where some kids want to start very simple and others don't need that modification. They can go forward and do the full-fledged one. And then everybody ends up with the same game in the end, but they get there in different ways. And the thing I like about this one is the fire. I just love the sparks and the crackle. You'll see that for another activity that we have done for Hour of Code as well in a minute. But yeah, with this one, you have, let's see, we don't need to set the scene. We don't need to choose the cave. We do need to add kindling. So we're going to add our kindling. And then on B, we're going to change that by 1. Okay, so that should already start to give me a little bit of a fire here. There we go. So our particle effects, we just click and we light the fire. Now, the fun part is that as you add more things, you start to add wind and it blows out the fire. So you have to be able to click really fast before the wind blows out your fire. And then every level, the wind gets stronger. And so you have to click faster in order to get where you want to go. And the students build each step of that along the way as well. All right. Oh, I see in the chat, I had my students use Bubble Pop activity and they had so much, oh, you had so much fun play testing their games. And one of them customized the art. I love that. I really like it when students get into it and make the stuff their own. I'll show you more about that too in a minute. Let's go to 2021 Hour of Code real quick. Then I want to hop over and show you what is different about the 2020 Hour of Code. And then we'll get into some of the customization stuff. So 2021 Hour of Code. Again, this has all the educator guide. This brings in climate change, environmental awareness, and it's got slide decks. It even has a really cool video that we produced with a firefighter to talk about the importance of fire safety. And then when you go into the activity, we've got a skill map. In the skill map, you are going to add your plane, and then after you add your plane, you're going to add the first spark of fire, and pretty soon you're going to have this grid, and there will be a fire there, and you'll teach the fire to spread, and then the fire will start in 4 random places, and then it will spread from there, and you have to take a sprite that you've added the ability to throw projectiles, which are water, at the fires, and then if enough projectiles hit the fires, it will put them out, and you have to see how much of the forest you can save. So you go through and you build this game. As you saw, this is one of the longer hours of code. It is several steps, but you get to work with you'll see it here, with the projectiles, with the particle effects, with the tile maps, with the sprites, with animation, with heads-up displays, and then it lets you do sounds and animations here at the end. So there's lots of stuff you get to explore through this map, and it's lots of fun. And then I want to show you what's different about this 2020 Hour of Code. We have Shark Attack, which is a skill map that students can follow. We have Design the Clovers, which was made to be more of an activity where the game is already made, but kids can just change the design of the game. So when I do this one, you'll see we go into kind of a different mode here, and all we have is pictures. So it tells you to play the game and then click next to get your next instruction. And it's going to tell you to change your scene, change your hero, change your clover, change your bee. And then in the end, you end up with a game that has already been coded, but your students feel like it's a game they made themselves because they did every element of it themselves. They changed every element. So if you are a little hesitant to dive into the blocks and the coding bit, you can still let your students feel like they created their own game using that design feature. And then this one, Asphodel, I don't know, has anybody played Asphodel? If you have, go ahead and give me a reaction here. This is called Asphodel Follows Directions. And this is a coding game, but not with blocks and not with text. Basically, what you do, there you go. You move your arrow, and then you set your arrow down, and then I think you press the B button. There you go. And your character goes one way only until it reaches the arrow. And then that arrow changes its direction. And so students have to think in advance. They have to plan their steps. They have to lay out their arrows. And in that way, it's a lot like coding. They're basically making an algorithm for their character to follow. So I'm going to need to move this up here so the asphodel starts going over, and then this over here so that asphodel starts going down. And then when I press the B button, hopefully my code works and asphodel gets where they need to be. So it's kind of a modified take on a maze solver. You might have played some maze solvers with like code.org, or we've been dabbling in them, but we don't really have many of them out there. That's that one. All right. I'm going to go ahead and use Shark Attack to show you my last couple of things here. I feel like I'm talking really fast. That's so I can get as much in as possible before the webinar is over. But please do, if you missed anything, if I went too fast, if you want me to repeat something, go ahead and pop it into the chat, or just make sure that you get the link for the slide deck so that you can get the recording when the recording is out so that you can watch it again. All right, we're going to start with Shark Attack. And I'm just going to do a quick breeze through this. I'm not going to do everything. I'm just going to kind of put something on here so that you can see what I've done. We're going to, it didn't even tell me to start with my shark. I just kind of dove right in. No pun intended. So I'm going to, yeah, shark is in my assets here. Let's go ahead and put our scene in, and I'm going to set it to some oceany color right there. And then move my sprite with buttons. And that should be enough for me to kind of, sprite stay on screen. This is important. This keeps the sprite from moving off the screen when you press the arrow button. So now it bounces on the edge of the screen instead of leaving the screen. All right. So we have a few things going on here. Congratulations. I click done. It's going to prompt me to sign in. And you can use, if your kids have a Microsoft account, that's great. If you use Google in your classroom, that's fine. They can sign in with Google and they can sign in with Clever, but they don't have to sign in at all. What signing in does is a couple things. One, it allows you to save your progress to your account. So if you want to play again at home, you'll have everything you did at school also at home. Or if you change computers at school, if you log in, then all your progress goes from computer to computer. Another thing it does is it will allow you to get a badge at the end. When you're all done with your skill map, you'll earn a badge that goes on your profile. You also can have persistent links. So if I give a link to my mom and I find a mistake and I go fix it, it's automatically updated for her. I don't have to resend her another link. That's only available to people who are logged in as well. So again, not required, but also not a bad idea if you can swing it. I'm going to just click X, click out of that. And I'm not going to go through, I'm going to go into one so I can just show you how the code carries through in skill maps. There we go. So there's all the code I wrote. It's the same background color I chose. If I had added, I don't know, a little pink speck here, the little pink speck would still be there. Everything that they've done will travel with them from tutorial to tutorial, which is really fulfilling. It's really nice. So I'm going to go through really quickly here and click done. Now I can share from here, but what I'm going to do is go to save to my projects. And when I do that, I now have my code in the full arcade window. So presumably the student would have gone through all the tutorial steps, and maybe they have an idea of something they want to do. Maybe they want to add music. So you go into music and you say, play a song, and I'm going to play the song in the background. Let's loop it in the background just to be extra annoying. And then I like to say, if you ever wanted to play the hamburger, this is your chance. I'm going to make a little scale here with my burger. There. So now I have my little scale and click done. And I shared with sound, you're welcome. So hopefully you can hear that. And it will keep going on forever because I'm having it loop in the background. But you can also hit the mute button, which is the educator's best friend. So there we go. That's my game, and I was able to add more stuff to it. I can switch over to JavaScript, and you'll see this is what my song looks like written in JavaScript. This is all of my other information, but you can do that all in there. I could change to Python. Now I'm in Python. I can change my background color. Let's change my background color there. Now it's a deep blue sea. Ooh, ah. Yeah, so now if I change back to JavaScript, it doesn't love going between languages back and forth like that. In the back end, it is all done in TypeScript, which is a close relative to JavaScript. So sometimes there's an issue converting all around if kids are just playing around. But for the most part, you can go JavaScript, Python, then back to blocks again. So that's fun. Now, what I wanted to show you, some of the little fun things. Number one, kids can take their games to Xbox. So this is something that we don't have a great way to get the information out about, but if students have an Xbox at home, we do have a free app for the Xbox that lets students play their games on Xbox. So if they want to make themselves a little game that they enjoy playing, they can load it on their Xboxes at home and play it all night long if they want to. That is really thrilling for kids because it makes it feel super real. And it is absolutely the fastest way to get a game on a console. So that is one special thing. The other special thing that you kind of saw me hinting back and forth at here is called Kiosk. I know some of you who were in the other webinars have already seen this, but I love Kiosk because you can group lots of games together. So this one came preloaded. It's got all these games that our engineers created. They created them all with blocks. So you'll see that there's a lot you can do with blocks. But if you want your students to be able to fill up the kiosk, you can hit clean equals 1, and now you have an empty kiosk. And now I can add my game, or my classrooms can add my game or their games to my kiosk. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to come over to my shark game and share it. Now I'm going to click this button, and this little joystick button gives me the ability to add that 6-digit code and click submit. And then this says it was submitted successfully. And I pop over here and it says it was added. So when I go back to my kiosk, you'll see my student's game here. And then if 20 different students add their game, there will be 20 different games here that we can go through and look at together as a class. So that is something I absolutely love. The thing I do not absolutely love is that this is it's in the cache. So the games are loaded onto this tab right now, and that's it. It's not persistent. I can't grab a link and share it with a friend. Um, if Since I'm in a private tab, if I close this tab, then my kiosk will be gone. If you're in a computer where your school automatically wipes it every so often or every time you log out, the kiosk will be gone. So that is unfortunate, but I'm really pulling for fixing that this season. The other thing I wanted to show you real quick is multiplayer. So I showed you with the whack-a-mole, we have a multiplayer. With the Lila and the Loop, there's online multiplayer. With the balloon bursting, there's online multiplayer. So I'm not logged in right now, so I'm not going to take you through a whole demo, but I'm going to go to the documentation at arcade.mako.com/multiplayer and just show you what it means to have a multiplayer online game. So just like I did with my other game, I went into share, and if you have multiplayer blocks in your game, it will give you this option to host a multiplayer game. If you're logged in, you can play with friends. The really neat thing about Make Code Arcade's online multiplayer is it is absolutely secure and private. It sticks to Microsoft's highest level of standards when it comes to privacy and security. There is no way to communicate. There's no way to message each other. There's no way to even know who else is playing with you unless they're using some external app. So it's very, very safe. There's no avatars like from your profile. It is only either this little meeple or if you assign sprites in your game to certain players, then it will show up as that sprite down here on in the bottom. Um, and then the most you can do to show people you're having a great time is if you hit buttons 1 through 5 on your keyboard, you can spam emoji, smiley faces, laughing faces, et cetera, et cetera. So very, very simple to use, very fun, very safe. Oh, there's the emoji that I was talking about. This also adds an extra level of reality to games. If kids are making these games, and then they can play it online with a friend, it really makes it feel collaborative, and it's a real good time. All right, multiplayer. We hit kiosk. I'm gonna hop back to my slides real quick. And oh, yes, we do have an educator YouTube channel. So this educator YouTube channel, right now, the video here is one of our other webinars. Actually, some of you came to this webinar. You can watch the webinar if you want to. It's got some very interesting information, and it goes a little bit deeper, I think, on both kiosk and online multiplayer. So our YouTube for educators is the YouTube/at MS Make Code. And in fact, everywhere you'll find us at MS Make Code. So we'll put that will be in the links at the beginning of this doc as well. I also wanted to show you our educator materials. This link here is arcade.makecode.com/educators. And if you go to that, you'll see a handy resource that not many people know that we have. We have quick links. I'll show you that in a second. Our complete courses. We have a high school course, Intro to CS. We have APCS, and then we have all of the stuff for Coda Carnival here in this complete courses as well. This is a link to our educator video YouTube channel. This is Fun Additions. So this is a link to our instructions to build your own game cabinet with cardboard in the classroom, or there's even instructions there to build your own game cabinet with wood in the classroom. Blogs, there's a blog that I write and a blog that Richard, one of our engineers, writes. And those are both linked here. And then a link to our educator training pages. So if you want to see more of our webinars, you'll find them there. So it's kind of an all-in-one stop shop for educators. And let's look at the quick links real quick. The cool thing about quick links is that it shows basically every tutorial, every skill map. If you want to run through these with your students and it's too hard to take them to the main page, look for the thing that they need, and then go to it, we have quick links right here. This row here is our AKAs. If you want to go to the Starting Fire Junior, it's aka.ms/Sparky. If you want to go to Turkey Rescue Junior, aka.ms/Turkey Junior. The Lila in the Loop one, aka.ms/Lila. So little quick shortcuts that make it easier for you and your IT team to get students started on these activities. So much stuff. And then we are almost at time. So I want to do just two more things. First, I want to make sure you know about Kiki's Corner, because if you're running arcade in your classroom, Kiki's Corner is going to teach you how to do everything. My game is broken. How do I debug it? How do you use GitHub? Well, this is more advanced, but you'll get down into things like, how do I keep score? How do I add a sprite? How do I use loops? How do I use functions? It's all here. So super duper helpful. Wow, that was a lot to cover. I'm just going to make sure that there are no more questions in the chat. Oh, somebody has already used the quick links. That's great. Yes, there is an answer key for every tutorial in the educator quick links. So either there's entire teacher materials. If we have entire sets of curriculum and slide decks and all of that on something, that'll be listed there. If we don't, at very minimum, there will be an answer key. So you can look at that and get that for your students. Can we get digital files of the sprite stickers? Yeah, I will have, well, technically the digital file is already in arcade. In fact, I think the way that these were done is that you take a snapshot of them using like a bright yellow background, and then you just remove the background and you have the image. We also have a thing that Richard and Shannon wrote. Shannon was an engineer for us quite a while ago, and you can put a project in the link and then it pulls your images out into PNGs. And I will put the link to that in the deck. So it should be there by the end of the week. And thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, we have other people who are breathless from just listening to me talk. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. And I hope to see you at our next webinar. Please do keep your eyes open for those webinars and let us know if there's anything else you want us to present on. Thank you. Thank you and good night.